Hello and welcome everyone to MSUB's first podcast. Thank you all for tuning in to listen, and I would like to apologize for the sound quality. We are waiting for our equipment to arrive and the sound will be much better after that. For the time being, we are just too excited to start and are here today to give you all a little taste of how the university and our students are responding to the pandemic for the kickoff of this podcast series. Before we begin, I want to let you all know about some events we have going on campus in the next couple of weeks. Don't forget to socially distance and wear a mask. MSUB is putting on Jackets, Java, and Jams on Tuesday, October 13th from 7 to 8 p.m. in the MSUB atrium. Free coffee will be provided by Stingers, and tables will be set up to hang with friends and do homework while enjoying some coffee house vibe music. Recreation Activities is putting on a cornhole tournament Thursday, October 15th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on the MSUB lawn. You'll have two-person teams and can sign up at the event. MSUB is also putting on a night at the corn maze at Grandpa's Corn Maze from 6 to 10 p.m. on the 23rd of October. Free admission to MSUB students for either the regular corn maze or the haunted corn maze. There's a COVID town hall meeting Thursday, October 22nd from 3 to 4 p.m. All meetings are held through WebEx, and you can find access to that on MSUB's website. These meetings are held every week, and you can also submit your questions beforehand, and they'll get answered during the meeting for you. Student Health Services is hosting a free flu shot clinic the third week of October. We don't have a date for that quite yet, but keep your ears open. The Northcutt Steel Gallery is showing an exhibition called Broad Spectrum from October 8th to December 13th, featuring art quilts from 21 different artists. Go on down to the LA building and check out some very talented work. On today's episode, we have our reporter, Jordan Lahi, interviewing head track and field coach, Coach John Wool, and track and field athlete Taylor about how the pandemic is affecting the athletics program. We also have our reporter, Courtney Tenike, who will be talking to Mr. Dwight Welch today about how the pandemic has affected him as a professor. And I had a great conversation with Dave Norbell, MSUB's COVID emergency planner, and Darla Tyler McSherry, our Director of Student Health Services, regarding some questions from our students worried about how the university is responding to the pandemic. Thank you for listening and enjoy the podcast. All right, so if you guys would just do some quick introductions, that'd be awesome. I can start with you.
Sure, I'm Dave Nordell. I'm the COVID emergency planner for Montana State University Billings.
And I'm Darla Tyler McSherry. I'm the Director of Student Health Services at MSU Billings. And in the COVID response, I'm the operations person.
Cool, awesome. Thank you guys both for being here today. Okay, sweet. We have some answers here. So, what is the university doing, first of all, to keep us safe in this time?
I'll take it. Okay. Well, we really put the health and the well-being and the safety of our students and our faculty and staff is top priority. We have been very intentional from early on, from when all this kind of first came about in the spring, continuing to work throughout the summer. There's several of us all across campus who worked very hard on the back of the business plan. And for your readers, or for the listeners, you can see it's a very comprehensive report. It addresses not only cleaning practices, but things that we can do on a daily basis to protect the health and the well-being of ourselves and those around us. It addresses components including social distancing and reducing capacity in the classrooms and the installation of hand sanitizers across campus. And now that we're back on campus, another new layer to that is we're also really stressing the importance of staying home if you're sick. whether you're a student or a faculty or a staff member. Also, students have the opportunity to pick up a jacket safety kit, which includes a face mask, gloves, disinfectant spray, and hand sanitizer. If you didn't get one yet, you can go to the library or come over here to the Center for Engagement and get one. I really just encourage people to check out that Back to Business plan. It's comprehensive. I know a big topic where people are really interested is, are we cleaning what we're supposed to be cleaning and the frequency? And the answer is yes. Our facilities crew are following CDC guidelines for cleaning high-touch surfaces daily. At the same time, we know that's a huge job, so we've also provided cleaning caddies that students and faculty and staff can use to clean an area before or after that they're done, so that everyone pitches in and helps keep the campus healthy and safe.
Okay, and where do students find the Back to Business plan?
That is found on our COVID-19 Central webpage. So if people go to msubillings.edu, at the very top you can see where a link that clicks to the COVID-19 Central page, and it'll take you right to it.
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So personally, I've noticed throughout classes that students aren't sanitizing before they sit down, which it should already be sanitized, and they're not sanitizing after they sit down. Should it be the instructor's responsibility to be reminding students, or noticing if they don't clean up, should they sanitize after, or where does that kind of take place?
Yeah, and we're hearing that question a lot from students. We know it's a big concern, and our answer is it's everyone's job. I might not know the last time this surface was cleaned, but I know the last time I washed my hands or the last time I used hand sanitizer. I could go grab the caddy and do some cleaning when I sit down, and same thing when I leave. So it's really a campus-wide effort.
I agree. Okay, so how would the university deal with an outbreak?
So we're pretty fortunate because we've taken some steps early on to put us in a good situation. So when you say an outbreak, you're talking about positive cases, and that can be how you handle those. The keys to that are, one, having space for quarantine and isolation. So if somebody's sick, right, we would put them in isolation. So there's a difference. If we say isolation, it means you're sick, you have a positive test. Or we can put you in quarantine, which means I may be sick, and if you were near me, we've traced you and you're a contact. We have to put you in quarantine, right, through that time frame, the incubation time frame for the virus, to make sure that you're not sick. If you do get sick during that time frame, then we move you to isolation until you're better, and then you come back. Well, we've internalized that process. So in the community, public health handles that. Public health has deputized our folks so that when we do get a positive test from them, we can work through that. So we've accelerated what could be up to a 2 to 3 day notification process into a 2 to 3 hour process. So we handle that. We've set aside about 48 spaces on campus, and we're hoping to expand that for quarantine and isolation to work back and forth, so that we get people that aren't feeling well out of the population, and then monitor them. And then on top of that, we have case managers. So somebody's checking on you once or twice a day to make sure everything's fine, to include the care and feeding. So I think we're well positioned to identify that. The other piece to that is having solid plans for, the onesie twosies or a pod type thing where there's quite a few people, or a larger event. And for the most part, we have plans for each of those. And then the larger event stuff, you've seen some stuff nationally. So yeah, I think we're in a good place.
Okay, that's really nice to hear. So I have a question with that. I know that the university has a self-reporting COVID line on their website. So when the university sees that a student has self-reported, is it anonymous, or is it?
I'll frame it. It's confidential. There's a space on that form that asks, do we have permission to share this information with relevant people, such as your hall director or your coach or things like that. And people have the option to say yes, or they can say no. If they say no, then it's kept to the smallest number of people possible, just so that the information, for those who really need to know, are alerted, and we can get that person into the quarantine isolation process. We can get areas that they've identified that have been in recently, we can get those areas cleaned. So we really kind of close that loop on the person who did submit this form, and get them the care that they need, and also keeping our larger environment healthy and safe.
Right. So then the university does take action, even if they say no, they don't want to share their information.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
We do some follow up with them and just make sure that they're in contact with their healthcare
Mm-hmm.
provider. If they have questions, if they're not feeling well, we provide them with the phone numbers for both hospitals that are 24/7 that they've set up specifically for COVID response. We make sure that someone in their circle is checking on them. So we do respect and protect their privacy, but we also make sure that, we're just not saying, okay, see you later, thanks for filling out this form. We make sure that they're being taken care of, and that they're working with their professors to stay up on top of their coursework.
Right. That's really good to hear. I think a lot of students are aware of the self-reporting line, but I don't think a lot of them really knew what happened after you did send a report. So that's really helpful. Thank you. Let's see. So I have, how effective is contact tracing through the university?
So contact tracing is a core element of managing any type of pandemic. So contact tracing is just not the university, it's the whole globe, right? And it's just part of, when we find out that somebody has contracted the virus and the test is positive, it's mandatory that you reach out and find their close contacts. So just so everybody understands the process, if you're sick, I say, where have you been over this amount of days? When did you start feeling symptoms? And who have you been within 6 feet or less, protected or unprotected, mask or not, for 15 minutes or longer? Those people are considered contacts. Those are who we're tracing. Those are the people that we call and say, Dave's been diagnosed with COVID. He said that you guys were out at dinner for an hour and a half and you didn't have a mask on. You were, at a small table, and you've been identified as a contact. And at that point in time here, that individual will be given, if they live on campus, we give them a room to quarantine, or they would be put into quarantine for the 14 days. And like I said, then we check up on them. So as far as the effectiveness of it, it's actually the method of maintaining spread. Right? Mm-hmm. So if we didn't do that, you would be sick, we wouldn't say anything to anybody, and then everybody else would get sick and they'd keep passing it. So the sooner we can contact, which I go back to my previous comment, is we've really squeezed that time down on the campus to a matter of hours. So from the time we know somebody's sick, we can get to their contacts in a matter of hours and put them in quarantine, which slows the spread of anything and gets people out of the potential for infecting other people in the community or here.
Awesome. That's also really good to hear. I don't think a lot of students are aware of how much the university is putting into the contact tracing, and if a student does get COVID, what the protocol is for that. So that is really nice to hear. Thank you guys. So about testing, and the university is not providing tests at this point, is that correct? So where can a student get tested?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a few options. They have symptoms, they can go to the Shrine. Riverstone Health is doing testing there, but there's kind of basically limited capacity each day.
Mm-hmm.
They can only run so many tests per day. So if a person is feeling symptomatic, that would be one option, and that's usually in the mornings, Monday through Friday. So if a student is starting to feel not well at night or on the weekends, then they can call one of those lines, the numbers from the hospitals, and get information from them as far as next steps. I feel like I'm missing something there.
So testing is directed by public health. They do 175 tests a day, because that's what the capacity is. That's what they can get run in the 24 to 48 hours that we need to. Right now, the best we can do is symptomatic testing. So if you have symptoms, you test. right? For the university, there's different varieties of testing. You can do asymptomatic testing where that's a free-for-all. You just wake up in the morning and you say, I wonder if I got it or not, and you walk into a place and get tested. That's the easy part. The hard part is it's got to get to a lab, it's got to get tested, the results have to be given back, and those type of things. And right now the capacity for that is we are testing right at the edge of our capacity, which is 175 a day. So if you're symptomatic, we want you to get tested. If your physician tells you to get tested, you need to go get tested. If you've been identified as a close contact and you're told to test, you need to test. Those are the three things. Will the university test in the future? When the logistics system, which is all the supplies and the equipment, the science, the laboratory, you have to have people to be able to do that, and the capacity, right? So just testing you asymptomatically or as surveillance, right, just checking, isn't really a good thing to do if we can't get the test back in a timely manner. And so that's where we're at right now. So it's not that the university doesn't want to test or they're not testing. It's we are part of Yellowstone County, which is part of the larger system, which is part of the state. And so we're offering the maximum amount of testing and identification that we can. And for the most part, it's working pretty well. So
that's really good. Have there been any reports of any false negatives or?
Sure, and there's a national average. There's enough out there now that we know, and there's a national average that can be anywhere from 1% to 3%.
Oh, okay.
And that just goes with the mediums and the testing. It's pretty standard to other laboratory, false positives or false negatives. So.
Oh, okay, interesting. Okay, so a big question that I actually had a lot of people interested in is, are drinking fountains safe to drink from?
Right. So what I actually made a phone call this morning because of this, because everybody's got a different stance on it. And I put some CDC guidance in here, which I'm going to refer to, okay? Because this is where we kind of need to stay. So as long as you're cleaning and disinfecting the surfaces frequently, which we work with our facility staff for, drinking fountains should be fine. You'll find that some institutions in the local community just want to do the bottle refill type of fountains and not the push button fountains and those type of things. The fountain should be treated like anything else, like a desktop or anything. So if you frequent it, it should probably be cleaned. And we just really need to pay attention to that. Water does not carry COVID. So if there's that correlation, no, we're fine. And the CDC goes into a big talk about how water and water sources are not sources that transmit COVID. It's the touching and the putting your fingers and hands in your eyes and those type of things. So a water fountain needs to be cleaned, or you'd have to use your hand to get the water out.
Right.
Versus just the water coming out.
So even if you touch a surface possibly contaminated with COVID, you're not guaranteed to get it, right? You have to bring that into
correct.
Your
it
face
doesn't
or
go through
your eyes.
Yeah, it doesn't,
right.
It doesn't end up through your skin. So that's how we get sick. And people need to kind of understand that. COVID is a virus like any other. It's just something that the human body hasn't dealt with. So it's as a globe, we're kind of normalizing to it. But yes, and 90% of that, and if you think about it, especially if you wear glasses like you do, if you think about it, 90% of it is it gets on your hands some way, which hand sanitizer and washing your hands, that's why it's a big part of it. It gets on your hands and you touch your face. Usually your eyes. Your eyes are usually the transport for that. And then obviously we wear a mask because you have breathing and droplets, those kind of things that can happen, but yeah.
Okay, I think that's really good to know, and I think a lot of students are probably also confused about how they can actually get COVID from coming into contact with a surface. So do not touch your face, guys.
Right.
So I've also been wondering, and I know a lot of other students have been, is the university hiring more custodial staff? And I see here that you guys are hiring as we speak, so that's really nice to hear. I know a lot of people have been concerned with not noticing really any extra people. It seems like there's less people here, mostly I'm sure because students haven't been coming back this semester, but it's nice to see that the university is hiring some more custodians. It's a really big job to handle, I'm sure, so that's really nice to hear. What else? So I have, what happens if an instructor gets sick?
Mhm.
Will the whole class be notified, or is that another private situation where they have the option to keep that
Yeah,
to themselves?
that's a great question, and just as with students, we also encourage faculty and staff who test positive to submit that form, and it is voluntary. So, and you bring up a good point, because there's a lot of questions, a lot of conversation about, well, if I do test positive, who finds out about it? And really that's a person's choice to share, not to share, but we do encourage that they do complete that form to help mitigate that risk, as David talked about. So if a faculty person does, I'll back up a step. In the Back to Business plan, there's language in there that we've planned for, what happens when this does arise. So faculty will have backup plans in place. One of those includes a teaching buddy who can fill in for them while they're gone. Some other options is to have that instructor transition to an online while they're not able to be out in the general public setting again, or that there can be a substitute who can come in and fill in for them. So we want to stress that point to students, that we have, number one, your health and safety is the top priority, and number two, we're working very hard and have plans in place ready to go for when that happens, that you'll be able to continue your educational journey and not have that interrupted because you have faculty who are out sick.
Okay, yeah, that's really nice. Is there anything else that you guys would like the students to know that you feel like is maybe being misunderstood or not aware of, not made aware of?
One big thing that we're really pushing out is the importance of getting a flu shot. And I have never met one person in my entire life who says, I love to get a shot. Nobody likes them, but especially in this year, and Dave and Dr. Tonjes, they can approach it from more of a medical background, and I think what they say to lay people makes perfect sense, in that you don't want to have COVID and flu at the same time, and you don't, as much as possible, we want to minimize both of those viruses in our community. So one way that we're responding to that is the university, we've stopped charging for flu shots in the health service. It used to be $20. Now you just come in, you get your shot for free. In addition to that, we're setting up kind of mobilizing like this big flu shot clinic here on campus, and we're firming up those dates, but it looks like it's going to be the third week of October. We're going to have a clinic here one day at the university campus, and then another clinic out at City College the following day, about a 4-hour block, and we're going to have food available, and we're working so that you can get your flu shot and walk away with a $5 gift card to Stingers. So, ouch, I got a shot, but hey, I get some free lunch out of it. And we're just really stressing the importance of, gosh, we're coming into cold and flu season as is, and we now have this novel virus in our community. Let's minimize the health risk to people so that we don't have both of those viruses happening at the same time. So I just really encourage people to come get a flu shot. We're actually tapping into our MSU Bozeman nursing students who are taking their courses here on our campus. They're going to be the ones who are giving shots with supervision from their instructors. So it's a great way that a fellow student is helping protect the health and the well-being of another student. So we're really looking forward to that.
That sounds really fun. I will definitely be there getting my flu shot.
I would tell the students, don't let your guard down. I think that what I see walking around and moving around campus, that we're in a high rate of compliance with the basics, the mask wearing and those type of things. We can always do better. I think anybody can do better. But I think here we're doing a great job. But don't let your guard down, okay? We got to get through break. We got to get through spring. We got to graduate, right? And that's the goal, is to educate and graduate. And we'll just work through all of this stuff. We have weekly town halls that are set up every Thursday at 3 p.m. Those are done by WebEx. And if you can't make it, you can watch it. And so watch it. There's a lot of good information on there week to week. Do include COVID rates in the community and kind of some challenges that we're facing, so to keep people up to date. And we do that specifically for that. Plus, you can share it with your parents. Students need to call their parents, and they need to say, I listened to this podcast, and here's all the things that are going on. We've had one parent that engaged us, and we kind of told her all of this information. She felt much better about it, but I fear that the parent knew more about this than the student. So let your parents know, on what's going on, because I think that's a huge deal. But again, I'm going to go back to, I cannot stress enough. If anybody takes one thing away from this, do not let your guard down. Do not let your buddy's guard down, and do not let the person next to you's guard down. Keep everybody's guard up, and we'll be fine, and we'll work through this. Is there going to be COVID on campus? Yes. But we have ways to manage it, to educate through it, to survive through it, to keep everybody healthy and happy. So, but we want to keep it to a minimum. So, right now is a time in our nation where we have a potential to let our guard down. Don't let your guard down.
Definitely.
And then the sign there is, that's a collective. I don't know if you want to use that or not, but
Yeah, I would love to.
Keep our doors open. That's the whole goal of the incident command team here at MSUB, is to keep the doors open and to make sure that we have access to in classroom education, and it stays on time.
Definitely. Thank you guys so much for all this great information. I definitely learned a lot, and I know our students are going to really appreciate hearing this from a couple of professionals. So,
Can I just share one more thing?
Yeah, of course.
I also thank you for letting us have some time. This is really important. I really appreciate it. I want to stress to students, if you have questions about whether it's COVID or just your general health questions, something new for us this fall in the health service is now you can have a consultation with a nurse or our provider. You can do that over the phone, and you can also do it over WebEx. So whereas before you'd have to come in and ask the question, this makes it so easy now, and we have a great team, and all of us in student health are really passionate about college health. I mean, that's what we live to do. So fear and anxiety never helps the situation. So give us a call, let us know what questions, what concerns that you have. Let us help address those concerns and get you into a place where you have more knowledge, and if you need to take some different steps or come in, we're here to help.
Yeah, definitely take advantage of all the great resources we have here on campus. And thank you guys so much for being here today and telling us all what we need to hear.
First off, can you start by telling everyone your name, what you teach, and what group you advise?
Oh, sure. So my name is Dwight Welch. I teach in the Philosophy and Religion Department at MSU Billings, and I'm the advisor for United Campus Ministry out at MSU Billings and the Autism Club.
All right. Now, out of your class and your groups, which one's your favorite to do, and why?
Which class?
Out of your class and your groups.
Oh!
Which one's your favorite?
I'll tell you the most energy is behind Out, and it's behind the Autism Club. And so that's been really exciting to be a part of, just because of that. Students are really invested in those programs, working and just enjoying it. I teach ethics, and the students are doing great, and they're sticking with it, but I can imagine it's stressful. I don't think they have quite the same experience as the students in their groups who want to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so this episode is all about coronavirus. So how does the coronavirus affect your teaching?
Well, I have a classroom lecture. The room has about 130 or so seats, and I have about 30-some students. So, yeah. So what it does is they literally measured the chairs 6 feet apart. The students were they picked the chair they were going to sit in, and then that's forever their chair that semester. Okay. So partly to maintain 6 feet distancing, but also because we always know where that person's at. So for instance, if a student does get affected by coronavirus, we kind of know who their neighbors were, who they were connected, who they may have possibly interacted with. So it helps with tracing as well. For some professors who have smaller rooms, they have to divide the class up so that they always maintain at 6 feet. So I think every class at MSUB, the goal is to maintain the 6 feet. I was just lucky that they gave me a really big classroom, so I don't have to divide my class up. The only other thing that they did ask is, so when a student obviously is affected by coronavirus, I believe the class shuts down for a period of time, so at least through that process of them healing and things like that. Also, just to make sure that nobody else was infected and then comes back to campus. But that hasn't happened. It's changed my attendance policy because I used to have a kind of a strict one. It's out the door. I'm like, if you feel the tiniest scratch, stay home. So I put all my lectures online. So hypothetically, you never have to show up to class, and you can pass the class. So it's not a bad deal,
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, so we do that. And then the other thing we did was they gave me, and I think they gave all the instructors, like sanitation supplies, so that you can wipe down any chairs, tables, any surfaces that were touched. Because you got to presume it's possible that, within the hour, some other class might be used in that classroom. So ideally, when you walk into a classroom, it should have been sanitized before you walk in. And that's the same as with the clubs. I'm about 99% able to do it, and sometimes I don't think I did it the last out meeting because I left while we were meeting. But normally, at the end of the meeting, we wipe everything.
We didn't either because we left 15 minutes before dinner was over, so we were rushing.
I totally get it.
We were all rushing to dinner.
Now my guess is it was probably okay because usually, even though it's possible that a virus can stay over a surface for so many days, usually within, I think it's 24, 48 hours, most surfaces are going to be fine. So Friday evening, you probably weren't affecting anybody, but that's ideally what you want and what I try to do when I'm with student groups as well. And then the last thing was they developed a buddy system. So there's another professor in the philosophy department. If she gets coronavirus, I've agreed to take on her class. And if I get coronavirus, she's agreed to take on my class.
That's handy.
Yeah, so the class doesn't have to stop because the instructor is affected either way. The class continues.
That's always a good thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so how do you feel about the virus?
Oh, I get torn, I kind of, on the one hand, I'm really, really jealous of most countries because they just did a lot better than we did.
They did, yeah.
It's kind of I think we're the outlier. I have family in Scandinavia I can't visit because I can't leave the country, basically.
Well, their country also closed down before ours did.
Yes.
Ours is the last one to close. We're
Ours,
it's fine. And everyone's close.
Close. It's time to close the whole shebang. No, but I noticed in Canada where they've had very few deaths, so they've done really well. But they've kind of done it by keeping the closure ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
And so in a place like Canada, most of the universities are all online. And I'm kind of torn because I'm I really like being in person. It's really hard to substitute being in person for online. But with that, there have been just more, especially in some college towns. I think MSU Billings is a bit better off because we don't have the fraternities and sororities and some of the social contexts where the virus can spread. But campuses have been kind of locuses for infection. And so, I totally get why Canada did that and why that would make it safer. So the only thing I get frustrated by also is that, things are politicized. It shouldn't be political to wear a mask. I'm not making a statement. I just don't want to make somebody sick, and I don't want to be sick.
Yeah, they're it's against my political beliefs. It's but it's not political. It's do you want to die or not?
Yeah, it's a health issue, right? It's a basic health 101. Yeah, I haven't figured that out. The only political thing I have is I got the yellow jacket on my. He gave this to us, so that was a nice gift.
Did they?
Yeah,
they gave us we gave us plain white ones.
Oh, okay. we get a yellow jacket on ours. So, and the hope is, in some ways that we'll see what next year brings, but hopefully the depoliticization would be great, so that we can be serious about taking every step we need to stop or limit the spread that we're, of the virus. So.
All right, and you mentioned you can't really like substitute in-person teaching. So do you prefer in-person or would you rather be online?
Oh, totally in person. Totally in person.
Well, because some people are like, well, I'd rather do it online, so I don't have to go anywhere.
It was nice. There were elements in the spring where it was like the first month was like, oh, I can work from home. That's pretty nice, And I get to see my husband and I get to hang out with my cats. But after a month, I was like, yeah,
Like, I need a break.
I need a break. I need to be on campus. I need to see people. So, yeah, that's kind of where my desire and public health may not always align, but I like being on the campus. Yeah.
Okay. And when do you think life would return to normal, or do you think it'll always be somewhat of this way?
I really wanted to return to normal. My guess is it won't fully. So, my understanding, I was talking to the Episcopal Bishop of Montana, and before she was the bishop, she was I can't say this, epidemiologist. So basically, she was a scientist that worked on viruses before she became a bishop. And she was like saying, well, look, think of it like the flu shot. It's not like the measles shot. So measles shot, you get it, you're not going to get measles. That's just pretty much guaranteed. If you have the vaccine, no measles. And so many of these diseases just we're wiped out, unless you don't get the vaccine, in which case they get resurgence. But the flu shots that you get reduce the risk, doesn't eliminate it. It might cut it down by like 50% or something. So it's not like the same.
I don't like the flu shot. I get more sick with the flu shot than I do with the flu itself.
Yeah, well,
with the flu, it's like 3 days. With the flu shot's like 3 weeks.
Just
And I'm
lingering.
just like, no.
No, I always worry about that kind of stuff. Well, and she's saying if we get a coronavirus shot, which we should be able to get, it sounds like maybe by the beginning of the year or early next year.
Okay.
And if we get that shot, it will significantly reduce the chances, but it will not eliminate it, which means probably some things you'll still have to just do. It'll probably still be a good idea to wear masks next year. It'll still be a good idea. But the sanitation thing is the thing that's the toughest, And I miss things like concerts and, being in a big group of folks.
Yeah, everyone misses concerts and...
I'd love to be able to figure out how you get back to that. But yeah, I think with the reduction, and the only other thing is if treatments get better and better and better, so that people don't have to be near death getting the virus, then, you might say, well, unless you're at risk, you can go out and do stuff. But my guess, like, masks might be here to stay.
Oh, God, I hope not. I hate wearing masks. I just want to throw them all away and go on with it.
Exactly.
Like, I just want them to be done.
No, it hurts social, to not be able to gather in a big way.
Yeah.
Hurts. Music and concerts and theaters and plays and bands and choirs, and of course I work with churches as well, so churches are very affected by if they can gather, how they can gather, can you touch certain objects without spreading the virus, that kind of stuff. So getting a handle on that would be great. But yeah, it doesn't sound like the vaccine would be foolproof. It would just make it better.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's all we have for coronavirus.
Okay.
And is there anything else you want to tell the MSUB students while you're here?
Oh.
For the school. So.
For the school. Well, like so there's been a couple positives. Mostly COVID has sucked, right? It's just been bad. Terrible, actually.
Yeah.
So there's not really a lot of upsides, but I hope there's a few upsides. one is like my change in attendance. I hope that like student mental health and well-being stays prioritized, that we don't forget this. The students have families to take care of, that they've got the health concerns, that right now that's been put front and center because of the virus. But if the virus gets kind of under control. I hope the university doesn't forget that and, you know, go back to, you know, like really. There were some things where, you know, we do our meetings on Zoom, and as much as people are tired of Zoom, it's been nice because I've been to like meetings all over the world because of Zoom.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, you can meet with everyone.
Exactly. So maybe we'll reduce some of those long trips to go to meetings. That would be nice. You know, spend more time with the ones we love, and in my case, the cats as well. You know. But I suppose in all this is to take care of your health first, and the grades and everything else will follow. And my only concern is it takes a level of, you will not fall into community at MSUB in the age of COVID. So if you're looking for community, you've got to go out there and figure out a way to do it, and safely. Seek it out, because the opportunities won't just show up. So you have to be more determined on making those connections in the age of COVID. So.
We have the head coach, head track and field coach, Coach John, and Taylor, who is a track and field athlete. So Taylor, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi everyone. So I am currently in my 5th year here at MSUB. I've been on the track team now for 4 years. I'm originally from Shepherd, Montana, and I'm completing my Bachelor's of Science in Liberal Studies.
And Coach John?
Hi, I'm John Walt. So this is my 6th year here at MSUB, 3rd year as head coach, or just finished 3rd year of head coach and going on 4th. And originally from Ankeny, Iowa, and been coaching for the last 8 years.
Oh, so you've been coaching for 8 years, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds interesting. So Taylor, can you please describe your day schedule of being a student athlete?
Yeah, so typically when it's not COVID, we practice 5 days a week and lift 3 days. Right now, though, I'm going to classes Monday through Thursday. I have a pretty tight schedule on Mondays and Wednesdays from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., so that's a little rough, but I'm getting my lifting in on my own on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. So.
And can you please tell us about your day schedule, Coach?
Yeah. So my day, typically I'll get started, it's a little different with COVID. Get started about 8 o'clock in the morning, and then usually kind of prepare. And, right now we're kind of put the pause button on practice, but we'd be in preseason mode practicing Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, which has been different because we've got restrictions on how many people can be in the weight room together. So we've been doing different workouts outside where we can socially distance. And so far, the workouts have been going well. And it's been really fun to kind of have everybody back on campus and see everybody getting along and working hard.
Oh, man, that sounds like a busy schedule, huh?
Yeah.
And Taylor, what is your favorite part at attending MSUB?
I would honestly have to say the bonds that I've created with my teammates over the years, like the throwers groups especially, has been super close. And this year, again, it's been a little bit different, but hopefully we can get to know each other a little bit better and continue to have that tradition.
Oh, that sounds fun. All right, Coach John, what's your favorite part about working at MSUB?
Kind of like Taylor said, it's really the people that makes being at MSUB so great. It's, just getting to know people on campus, whether they're student athletes or other coaches or other, staff and faculty. That's really, it's the people that make MSUB a really fun place to work.
Oh yeah, I would have to say the people at MSUB made it really easy to transition, especially being a former junior college transfer who attended Highland Community College out in Kansas for a year and a half. Then after that, once the fall semester ended, then having to quickly transition to Central Arizona College, where I did like a track season over there too for about an entire semester. Then once track season ended, I basically had to step down and try to go back on the recruiting trail.
Yeah.
So Taylor, what was your reaction once you learned that COVID had to cancel last year's track season?
I would have to say, like, it was kind of devastating. We had been working super hard last season, and to come off of indoor, you get so excited to go out and compete in outdoor. And my favorite event is hammer, so that was a little bit hard to swallow that we didn't get to compete. But we're back this year, and hopefully we get to finish it off.
And how did you learn about once the season was canceled?
So we actually got an email sent to us from our coach. They were just trying to keep us in the loop as much as they knew. It was hard for them too to keep up on it, but overall they just kept emailing us and letting us know everything as soon as they found out. So.
Oh, and Coach, what was your reaction to once the season was over?
Well, kind of shocked because it came so quickly. Like we, had a really good indoor season. The team chemistry had been getting better. It seemed like with every week through the indoor season. There were tons every week. We were still having tons of season bests. So we were like kind of on a high, ready to go into the outdoor season. And I think we were in our first week of practicing for outdoor after spring break when it was like, there's going to be like social distancing stuff we need to do. And then it was like, it sounds like they're going to, cancel classes. And then it's like they're going to postpone the season or suspend the season, and then they canceled it, and it just kind of all happened in about 7 days, and it was just kind of took a while to kind of come to terms with all that. So kind of shocked and really disappointed because we missed out on a lot of hopefully it would have been really good marks, but we're excited that we're back on campus, kind of making baby steps back towards what's kind of going to be normal for us, and hopefully being able to compete, if not this winter for indoor track, but for sure in outdoor track next spring.
Oh yeah, for sure. As I'm sure, I know back home once COVID hit, it hit especially hard. It hit especially hard, and it was tough, especially for like high school athletes, because I had like a bunch of various friends who were also competing in track as well, over in high school and college, where as soon as like once it got canceled, there was like sent shockwaves to everybody, where everybody's like scrambling how are they gonna get home, how are they do classes, and once classes had switched from in class to now online, so I didn't have internet access, to where like made it like twice as hard to get their assignments complete as well. So Taylor, how is handling COVID now been way different than the first time?
I would say it's getting a little bit easier. At first, it was obviously hard for everyone. Nobody knew how to do things that we were used to doing. Wearing masks and social distancing as a whole is really hard to get used to when you're not used to it. And I think that it's getting a lot easier now. I still forget my mask in my car, and I got to go back and get it everywhere I go. But it's getting easier overall.
And Coach?
Yeah, it's been. I'm definitely used to wearing a mask a lot more now than I was, back in June and July, just because it's almost become like second nature. Like, if we're going out to a grocery shop or whatever, like, gotta have my mask. And like Taylor said, the social distancing part is like, holy cow, like 6 feet from somebody else is a lot further than you actually think, because I never thought of myself as a close talker, but apparently I am.
Oh, and Taylor, what would you say like the hardest adjustment has been since COVID?
I would just say getting used to new routines. It's hard when you get into the habit of convenience for things and not being able to lift with my teammates and only being allowed to have so many people in classrooms. That's all very difficult. I would say that's been the hardest part, and it's just something that we all have to get used to, because it might be the new normal for a while.
Oh yeah, for sure it is. And Coach, what has been the hardest adjustment for you, Ben?
Yeah, like for us, I think the fall, the hardest thing to kind of adjust to was like, okay, we went in kind of planning like, okay, we've got 3:30 to 5:30 in the weight room on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Like, that's when all the fall track athletes are going to work. And Coach Willardson and I had like figured out, okay, we're going to have these different groups, and then to find out, okay, so you got 40 plus athletes that are in this group that need to lift 3 times a week, but you can only have 8 people in the weight room at a time, at an hour at a time. So that like cut it down from, okay, well that means everybody gets to lift 1 time a week. Well, what do we do on the other days? So it's just been kind of pivoting and kind of rolling with what we're given and trying to make the most of it, which, fortunately, most of our track and field athletes and coaches, like, we're kind of used to, having to roll with it because, some days it's really crappy outside. Well, what are we going to do for practice? We got to, come up with something else that we can do. So it's just been kind of a little bit different kind of obstacle that we faced with COVID.
Oh yeah, for sure. It has been the hardest adjustment, especially when we got like a huge team like track athletes are like 40 plus athletes to where we all need to work together as well as build that team chemistry. As I'm sure we're all aware, track season is like a long season that's training from like September all the way to like potentially end of May. So it's not like your typical sports like football where you have training from like June all the way to like November, potentially December if you make the playoffs or a bowl game and such. And Taylor, how have you been staying clean and healthy throughout COVID?
I would say a lot of just the social distancing, hand sanitizer, washing our hands. Those are things that like you don't really realize that we don't do that often until you're forced to and everybody else is. And I mean, I keep hand sanitizer in my car. I have my mask with me at all times. It's getting used to it. But I feel like those are things that I never paid attention to before. I'm not somebody who uses hand sanitizer 5 times a day, and now I do. It's just something that you got to get used to stay clean and keep everybody safe.
Oh yeah, and Coach?
That was kind of one of the, you said clean and healthy. That was kind of one of the nice things about, sheltering in place and stuff this last spring and early summer was, I had time. I started running every day. Got used to washing my hands a lot. And, just kind of doing, the healthy practices. I'd get really good at like coming up with lists for the grocery store because I'd only go, every 2 to 3 weeks, and kind of just trying to like minimize, public contacts and all that stuff. So now that we're able to kind of be a little bit more out and about, it's been nice to kind of like not necessarily have to like, limit like how many times you go to the grocery store and stuff like that. But we still, are trying to, keep it to, every 1 to 2 weeks we go. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. And Coach, what has been the effects of recruiting due to COVID?
Well, I don't know. Like, it's changed it for sure, but kind of not in ways that like I would have thought. Like we've got, still have, I'm getting contacted from kids that are like a long ways away from us, which I would expected like, to be hearing from more local kids. So like it's been kind of interesting to see how like kids are kind of exploring outside of what they would normally consider. I don't know if it's just because they have more time on their hands or what. But then like the other like big thing is like normally we'd be able to, say, hey, come down to campus and you can do a visit. Well, like all spring and early summer, like we couldn't do campus visits. So that was kind of difficult. But kind of the nice thing now is, with admissions and stuff, they've done a really good job of like making a virtual tour. So we can share that with, those kids that are now contacting us from further away that might not be able to easily visit. Well, they can still kind of explore and get to know campus without actually having to come here. So I think there have been, a few positives that have kind of helped us with our recruiting kind of along the way.
Oh yeah, for sure. And Taylor, how has your change of feelings affect the cancellation? Has their feelings changed since the cancellation of sports?
I would say I've come to accept it a little bit more. There's nothing anybody can do at this point. At first, I was mad. I was angry that we weren't able to compete, and I feel for those that graduated and don't get to finish those seasons. But overall, I think that I was fortunate, and I'm grateful that I do get one more outdoor season. And I think that I've grown to just accept it and take it for the best and look at it as a positive that we get that much more time to prepare before we compete.
Oh yeah, definitely, especially in having the extra season to
Yes,
compete
absolutely.
for one last time.
Yeah.
And coach, has the finish changed since March due to COVID?
Feeling changed about what?
Like has your finish changed about decision of having sports being canceled?
Well, like I think, back then, it was definitely kind of something we needed to do. But now, like, I'm encouraged where, it seems like we're kind of slowly making baby steps back towards, practice and then hopefully into competing. And it's probably not going to look exactly like we want it to look right away. But, we're trying to be creative and as safe as possible, so that way we can kind of get, at least a compromise in something that we want to have, which is to get back to competing. And I think our student athletes have done a really good job kind of recognizing that, what they do, outside of practice and, team activities really does have, we always say that it has an effect on the team, but like now, like it literally, we have like a way we can see that it does have an effect on what's going on with our team and even the other teams on our campus and then MSUB as a whole. So it's, what we've got to work with. And I think, like Taylor said, we're, trying to make the best of it.
Okay, definitely. And Taylor, has there been any positives due to COVID?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost that it made everybody stop and slow down and really appreciate the things, the family and friends they have around them, and the things that we typically take for granted on a day-to-day basis. I mean, like Coach was saying earlier, going to the grocery store became a task, and we used to just look at it as, hey, I need to go grab milk, or, we tend to speed up and try to go through life a little bit too quick sometimes, and I think if one thing came out of this, absolutely, it slowed everyone down a little bit, made everybody appreciate what was around them.
Oh yeah, for sure. And Coach, any positives due to COVID?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, with recruiting and stuff, like there's the whole, virtual tour, but then like the other positive, I've talked with a couple of professors on campus, they've gotten used to this whole like teaching online, and I'm kind of looking ahead to when we do get back to competing. Well, now hopefully that does, we don't miss a ton of days of class for meets, but we do occasionally, and now I'm kind of hopeful that we're not going to miss as much, because our students are going to be able to stay caught up either by watching the lecture video or having whatever activity they're supposed to do in class kind of in an online version. But then, yeah, like Taylor said, just kind of slowing down a little bit. For me, like I spent a lot of time, kind of slowly getting back in shape and running a little bit, and kind of got, good kind of healthy routines established, through the spring and the summer, that I think, we're able to kind of continue to, have going forward as we kind of get back to what we see as usual.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I would say one of the main positives that due to COVID was I was actually able to spend more time with my family, as well as typically as a student athlete, I was always been busy from like fresh in the morning all the way to late at night due to like track, and also did work study too as well. In addition, trying to focus on my classes as well, and also trying to like make time to spend with my friends and teammates to help build that chemistry. So that's one of the things I've learned. That was like team chemistry. Team chemistry is like one of the most important things as well, especially having like a long season as long as track. And Coach, what's your favorite vinyl record?
Oh yeah, so I do have a few records. I think I'm up to like getting close to like 1,800 in my office. So I don't know if I can pick one favorite, but right now I'm kind of into like Shooter Jennings, Waylon Jennings, obviously his dad, and then I just scored a bunch of Dick Clark top 30 hit recordings that were like radio broadcasts. I've got a bunch of those from like the early 80s I've been listening to, and those are kind of fun little time capsules to listen to, and kind of, you know, connect like what was popular like 30 or 40 years ago. So very cool.
Oh, and Taylor, if you had a HUD that showed three stats about any person you looked at, what are the 3 stats you wanted to show?
I would have to say I'd want a lie detector, a happiness meter, and a personality one.
Why is like happiness meter important?
I think that like I like to surround myself with positive energy, and I think that being able to just tell right off the bat if they've got good vibes would be helpful.
Oh yeah, definitely. And coach, if you had a HUD that showed 3 stats about any person you looked at, what were the 3 stats would you wanted to show?
Well, kind of looking at it as a track coach, like really what, you know, I look for in, you know, athletes and stuff is like people that want to, you know, if I can tell if they work hard or not, whether that's, you know, in, you know, their sport or in the classroom, and just kind of are able to, you know, tell how well people are able to do stuff on their own. I don't know. I like Taylor's happiness. That sounds really nice to know too, because, you know, if you're gonna be like an encouraging teammate and stuff like that, that's really good to know as well.
Oh man, and now for mine, our show number 1 is honesty. The honesty level. Are they good? Are they being truthful, or are they lying? Number 2, I would say like happiness. As I would say, like happiness brings like good vibes, and you could tell like whether that's a good person or not. And lastly, I would say what kind of character they are. Like are they someone that gets into a lot of trouble? Are they someone that's good? Are they someone that's bad? Or someone that's like extremely smart? And Taylor, what animal would be the cutest if scaled down to a cat size?
Oh, a giraffe, 100%. Would that not be the cutest thing you've ever seen? He's so cute.
Well, I guess, yeah, probably. Down to the size of a cat?
Yeah, like any animal you could like scale down to the size of a cat. What would be the cutest?
I don't know. I gotta go like hippopotamus or something
that would
like
be
that.
cute
Uh-huh. And for mine, I would say a buffalo. Buffalo scaled down size to a cat would be like the cutest.
Yeah.
And Taylor, do you have any final thoughts?
No, I'm just excited for this track season, and I hope everybody out there stays safe, continues to social distance, so we can all move past this. And thanks for having us.
And Coach, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, well, I'm just glad that, you know, we're now almost tomorrow will be 5 weeks into the school year. We're still having class, and, you know, it's not necessarily what anybody had planned for the fall, but we're still here doing our best to make it all work.
And this concludes the first episode of the Retort podcast. I would like to thank Taylor and thank Coach John for coming and do this interview as well.
Thanks for having us.